Alright, muri yeZimbabwe kusangana kwatiri kuita zvakare ipo pano pazimu news update apo patinodai kupa mafirst hand update anonga ari kuitika munyika yedu yeZimbabwe. So kana uri mutsva usabve pano usina kusubscribe, kulike nekusheya. Muri yeZimbabwe hatuna kumira zvakanaka kusaidi kwaPresident Emmerson Mnangagwa apo patiri kuona Barracks hombe muri yeZimbabwe ku KG6 kujosaya magamba tongogara Barracks kwafuma kuine matsamba akanyorwa nemilitary akangoraswa pasi muri yeZimbabwe anga ari mukati meBarracks. Ndofunga muri kuvaona iri ndozi akiri ari muri kuona uko rakachena uko rakanyorwa josaya magamba tongogara chichi chimwe riri mukati meKG6. So zvina zvinomira zvakanaka muri yeZimbabwe zvetinogara takataura panapa kutoti vanhu vanotanga coup, especially nowadays since from 2021, it's not ma army generals sort of like ana matatu aya ma junior soldiers ndo ari kutanga kuta semwene zvakaitika paMadagascar apa mahwana kangotangidzwa akatangidzwa nema junior soldiers ana Ibrahim Traore chechewo ana Asini Zaigota chechewo anga ma junior soldiers vakatangidza ku. So tiri kuona kuti ndo zvakuda kuitika muno izvi mapapers ari kunyorwa ari kubuda chinyorwa kunzi imimi watungamiriri tiri kuona kuti muri kudya sana general Umondo akabudiswa pachena kuti vari kupiwa mari nakuda gwere. So the best solution vana general Umondo hapana kana chavanoshanda muri yeZimbabwe, vanhu vatozvichemberero zvavo zvakafanana namatatu aya kutaura chokwadi chechepo, vanhu vatozvichemberera anatafumane vakatokwara makumbo, vanhu vatodini watozvichemberera zvavo. So tiri kuona panapa zvinhu zvinomira zvakanaka. Tira kuti tiwerenge munyase kuona kuti chii chiri kunyasa kumboitika muri yeZimbabwe. Tiende kune mapages but hatizokwanisa kumaverenga ese. Pane mapeji mairi akawanda mapeji acho but pane mapeji mairi. Ndofunga muri kuona peji iri ranyorwa nemilitary muri yeZimbabwe. Munofunga muri kuona pakanyorwa zvigananda and wati chichi chimwe nemari dziri kunyorwa mafi 250,000 wati dziri kunyorwa nemawara mahomba aya. So tira kuti tiende pane nhau yeCAB 3. Nhau yeCAB 3 ndo iri apa muri yeZimbabwe. Tinoda kuti tingoverenge but tiri kuona kuti bepa iri rakanyorwa zvinhu zvakawandisisa. Zvinhu zvakawandisisa zvokutoti mahwa nemazita evanhu atorimo, even kana naShoni Mnangagwa, Lieutenant Colonel Shoni Mnangagwa wati chichi chimwe zvakawanda zvanyorwa afuma ari pamukova weKG6 muzuva ranhasi, which means akaiswa nemajunior soldiers, akatonzi from junior soldiers ndo zvakatonyorwa mapapers yaya. So tiri kuona panapa muri yeZimbabwe pakanyorwa kunzi ZDF Zimbabwe Defense Forces personnel, CAB 3 is not good for us. Once you extend their term for 2 years, they will come back for CAB 4 to 20 years. Muri yeZimbabwe zvainyasa kuoneka zvidiki manje. Zvaitoda munhu kunyasa kutoona chechezo rikidze timbotiyedze nepetinogona napo kutoona kuti tingazviita sei. So tira kuti titange kuverenga pamusoro panapa muri yeZimbabwe. Pakanyorwa kunzi muchaenda mega kumastreet kunomhanyisa vanhu here, isu majunior soldiers enyu hatisi kuenda ikoko, takamhanyisa vanhu 2017 not gain idya yenyu mari dzenyu, but definitely we won't do your dirty work, we stand with the people of Zimbabwe. Tiri kuona panapa rekedzai tiverenge padzasi panapa yeCAB 3 mawi acho akawandisa. Ndofunga mazviona muri yeZimbabwe. Ndoda kuti ndizame nepeninogona napo bhodza zvisi kunyasa kuoneka manje tumawara tacho tudiki but pakaipa. Tiri kuona panapa pakanyorwa kunzi the personal CAB 3 is not good for us. Once you extend the term for 2 years, they will come back for CAB 4 to 20 years, adding more years and cancelling election and declaring Zimbabwe as Monomotapa Kingdom. As soldiers, we don't want to be the observers in our country. We want tudiki muri yeZimbabwe. We want to uphold the constitution and be its muri yeZimbabwe tudiki, but now iripo ndofunga maiona muri yeZimbabwe kutoti zvinhu izvi zviri kubva kumilitary kumajunior soldiers and kwete tiri kuona zvanhongwa muHarare kana kuti zvatori paJosia paonzbeko paJosia tongogara chichi chiBarracks ndo pazva zviri apa pamuri yeZimbabwe. Ndofunga kuti mapepa afuma akaraswa makusina ichi akichi kana kuna unochiziva paJosia tongogara chichi chimwe chiaki icho chakanyorwa kunzi Josia tongogara chichi chimwe chakabaka apo icho ndicho ichocho muri yeZimbabwe ndori mukati meBarracks umo. So zvinhu hazvina kumira zvakanaka, vanhu vangofuma vachinhonga mapapers yaya. Ndofunga muri kuona kuwanda kwakaita mapapers iya kutoti zvinhu hazvina kumira zvakanaka, tisingazozive kuti zvichapera sei nhau dzakafanana idzodzo. So ndo zvinotya ZANU-PF izvozvo, military yakatanga kunyora zvinhu zvakafanana izvozvo anenge atoma 1. Tiri kuona futi zvanguva kwese kwese mhuri yeZimbabwe. The barracks have spoken V11 scattered across Tongogara Barracks JMT. Soldiers are done being used for personal achievement and unconstitutional games, loyalty to be constituents and be people of Zimbabwe, not one man. The man is watching, at your own peril. Tiri kuona pana mhuri yeZimbabwe ndofunga muri kuzivana ndo zvingori kwese kwese izvo mhuri yeZimbabwe, mapapers angori kwese kwese, zvinhu hazvina kumira zvakanaka. Tiri kuona tumawiri twacho hatuwerengeki, tudiki, A4 twacho tudiki mhuri yeZimbabwe. Ndo mamiriro akaita zvinhu, mamiriro zvakaita panapa. So tira kuti tinzwe makomborete tina munzwa kuti zvinhu zvacho zvakanyatsa kumbomira sei, but tongoti kana uri musasa pano usina kusubscribe, kulike
disputed documentation and the Speaker of Parliament who acted with speed and uncertainty. I mean, and not uncertain, but with certainty, that most of us were even puzzled, and we found the conduct, very, suspicious. But to me, it's a partial story. It's not the real story, because these weren't just administrative acts, but they were political acts, and that has resulted in constitutional consequences that we are facing, today. There was a shift in parliamentary, numbers, eventually leading, to the 2/3, majority, and that changed the entire democratic, landscape. I've seen, Gladys saying that even in our numbers, no, Shoma with you, we are going to put up, a fight. But they are putting up a fight in an environment that was engineered through institutional decisions that we as Zimbabwean people could not even influence or challenge. There are court cases, that are still there. They haven't been, decided. They remain unresolved. And this is why I struggle to see this current 2/3 majority as carrying the full democratic legitimacy. And where I believe, Kuti, it presents grounds, because, we've got cases, that are yet, to be decided. And yet, we're going on as if, everything, is normal. What is taking, these cases, this long to decide them? To me, it tells me of a sinister plot that was hedged, from somewhere. But it is that somewhere, it is the beginning, the genesis, where I am saying one day, I wish to understand, I wish to hear, because the manufacturing of the 2/3 majority has paved the way for constitutional changes that are before us, today. And these, if they are put to the test of a national referendum, I want to believe they will not pass, they will not survive the genuineness of a national, referendum. So when we are speaking about amending the constitution, a constitution that is being amended not because us we are demanding it, but because a parliamentary number has been rearranged through contested, recalls, then we've got a deeper problem, a fundamental problem that needs to be talked about. We need to have a conversation, because we need to understand the rules of the game are being changed, midway, without the consent of the Zimbabwean people. And we are being expected to live under, these rules. So when I'm looking at this, right, when I was thinking about this, when I was looking at this, and I will not lie, or I'm not shy away, from saying it. The post that Van Chamisa put out, today, informed my thinking. Okay, can we interrogate, this thing? Can we interrogate? Because the making of this 2/3 majority is representative of a democratic deficit. It is reflective of a system where institutional power can be used to override electoral power, and where a constitutional change can be driven by political strategy rather than national consensus. And some people, they are all for this political, strategy. And this is where
Ukutola
people,
big
begin
words
to be
here.
telling you to say, oh, it shows that, this individual is a master of the game. But if we
Yes, because you are
normalize
giving
this,
us,
if
you are
we
removing
normalize,
Chamisa
can
from
I
his own
finish
problem.
can I finish, my recap? If we normalize this, I believe we risk creating a future where any government, not just, this one, that we're talking about, can be, can begin to manipulate, parliamentary, numbers to rewrite, the constitution at will. And that is not sustainable. These guys, you see, the tragedy that we have in the way other people are thinking is to think, Kutizo, this can be sustained for the foreseeable future. Yes, you can, you can celebrate, your wins, today. But rest assured, this story is not ending, today. There is a consequence, tomorrow. And this is why we all say things have to be democratic. I know some people might say the democracy is an illusion. It's something, that we can never enjoy in its truest sense or form. But that is not to say that we do not have a vision in Zimbabwe. We do not have a constitutional vision of how we want things, to be, how we want to be governed. So it's quite, sad that, we can get to this point, try to illuminate, the wrongs or the weaknesses of whatever it is, that is there. But, I mean, whether you call it democracy or you call it, a right or you call it what, but a precedent that is being set here and being supported, by others, which is their right anyway, but it is very dangerous in the long run. Very, 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 very dangerous. So that was my introduction. Special 7. I know you don't have time, my brother, but take the mic.
Uncle Jade, greetings to you.
How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you very much. Greetings to everyone on this space. It's always a pleasure to listen to your introductions to any particular topic, and you give weight to the topic being discussed at any given time. I also would like to appreciate listening to Zeti. You will always pick up one or two nuggets. However, there's something that they call confirmation bias, where if you then look at a particular topic or subject, mainly focusing on your deeply held beliefs, there is that aspect where you then tend to feed your mind or feed yourself with things that support your line of thinking. Let me take you back to the 29th of June 2008. Morgan Tsvangirai withdrew his consent and withdrew his supporters when the runoff was declared, and ZANU-PF, being a beast of no order and violence, continued to have that runoff and declare the late President Mugabe as the winner. So why am I saying that, and why am I mentioning this? Is because Zeti has highlighted, rightly so, where we have to withdraw our support for things that we disagree with. But we also have then to understand the enemy that we are dealing with. Let me say, ZANU-PF is a party, it's a clear and present danger to anything or any word that starts with D. If you want to think of democracy, you cannot then associate that with anything that is led by any ZANU-PF government. Sadly, Zeti also has mentioned something very critical, and I just have to say 12 out of 10 about that. The opposition that exists in any of its forms, or as long as it has existed, is the Mzorewa opposition. From the great Morgan Tsvangirai, may his soul rest in peace, recalls have been the order of the day up until we get to Chabangu. Now, as a people who have our high hopes in maybe us congregating and voting for Nelson Chamisa at some point. We have not dissected, or rather been honest with ourselves as to where did Chavangu come from. He did not fall from the sky. That's the reason why he gave Nelson Chamisa that challenge to say, put it on an affidavit and tell the world you do not know me. Write it down. Let's
Spiritually correct, guys.
Classic bandwagon effect, Zeti.
Mm-hmm.
Head mentality.
So now we have to go back again and redo what we've been telling people. Because a lot of people out here have consumed the narrative that only thing that is needed here is a referendum. And the entity you are playing around with, they are thinking people. They are thinking people. They are not stupid. They are thinking people. So if you are calling for a referendum, and I know that the process is wrong, I'll give you what you say you want. I'll give you a referendum. Or I open it up so that there's a possibility of a referendum. That's how you strategize. But is a referendum what is the answer here? No, it's not. It is not. Because the fundamental point is that the whole bill has to be chucked away. New bills have to be created, 2 of them, with the proper procedure. But yes. Now we have to do undoing. Now you have to argue with yourselves now. You have to go and undo everything that we have done. You have to argue with yourselves. You have to go back and say, sorry, people, we're wrong. It's not a referendum that we need. It's a whole new process. But we could have done this in the beginning. We could have done this in the beginning. But
yeah, I think for the most part, for most of the people, especially those that have some level of influence who have been communicating this, have been doing it based on not really knowing what they're talking about. Because I remember I had a period where I was just trying to speak to different people. And remember that I spoke to you and I spoke to many other people, just trying to understand, and also for the purpose of the citizens so that they can understand exactly what is going on. And the biggest challenge that I'm seeing is that we have a lot of talking heads who are encouraging people towards a direction with no real understanding as to the process, what the process is. So it's like they maybe hear one person saying it, maybe the person that they trust, and they just repeat the same talking points. And unfortunately, some of those people are considered to be academics, even though they're then influencing people in the wrong direction. Because I remember when this came up, and I remember I was thinking, I was like, this referendum thing is sounding a bit like a trap. Like, we'll give it to you because you guys are asking. And I think also Mas said the same thing, like, there's definitely a strategy here of, because you're the one asking for it, they will give it to you. And so now it leaves me with the question of, in the undoing, unfortunately, the loudest voices are the least informed, or rather they don't really understand this process, and they're not willing to humble themselves enough to just sit and try and understand. I've not seen enough dialogue that speaks to explaining things in such a way where the citizens can understand and be on the same page. Right now, the biggest problem we're having, and I wonder sometimes how we tackle this, that because of the person who is pushing, if I don't like the person, I won't get behind the messaging. Even if the messaging is correct, we have this attitude right now in this space, which is doing us a huge disservice, because then it's not about personalities, it's not about anything else, but guys, we are being robbed in broad daylight. And so then that's then the concern that I start to have of the level of unity that is required amongst us to push the same message is also lacking. So how do we all get on the same page?
With me, I had a solution about that a couple of years ago. I'll explain to you how I got to that solution. So the solution is based on a problem. We are Zimbabweans. Only thing we've had is we listen to ZANU-PF.